Welcome back, Defenders. Let's start with the bad news for Russia. Russia's Volgograd oil refinery halts operations after Ukrainian drone attack. This drone attack was 3 days ago, but we just got confirmation. The Volgograd refinery is officially offline. Ukraine has struck this refinery 10 times in the last 2 years, but 4 times in the last 3 months, and that was finally enough. Reuters has a source at the refinery. They said that the primary processing unit CDU-5, with a daily capacity of 9,000 metric tons or 66,000 barrels per day, a fifth of the plant's total capacity, and a hydrocracker with a capacity of 11,000 tons per day were damaged during the attack. Lukoil did not respond to a request for comment. This is costing the Russians a fortune. Every day this refinery is down, as well as the Tuapse refinery and the Tuapse export terminal. To the best of my knowledge, Russia's not exporting any oil or oil products out of the Black Sea. They simply can't. Ukraine has knocked this offline. And Ukraine's not letting up. Ukraine Special Ops hit oil depots and fuel trains in occupied Crimea. Ukraine released the video, and I can link these down below. The first one is Ukrainian drones successfully destroying a very relatively minor oil depot. You can see they're on fire, as well as going after a fuel car. These are fuel trains, and you can see they're on fire. Here's the result. Russia's oil revenues plunged 27% year-on-year in October. Every month is worse than the month before, so every month we get to say, this is the new worst month, year over year, for Russia's oil export revenues. What is the number here? Russia collected 888 billion rubles in taxes from oil and gas producers in October, a 27% decline from the same month a year ago. Here's a chart to help you visualize it. And this is pretty interesting because Russia's oil and gas exports were lower in 2022 and 2023 because of sanctions. Russia then had to build up their own shadow fleets. These are these unregistered tankers taking their oil to India and China. So Russia's revenue was actually pretty decent in 2024, but it's now declining, partly because of new sanctions, but it's the refinery strikes. Ukraine going after their output and production. If you can't produce it, you can't export and sell it to people around the world. So this chart is pretty interesting because this peak right here, I know it's kind of hidden. This is October. This was the previous month. And if we go back to October of 2024, this is where it was. But if we go back to October of 2023, this is where it was. This is a downward sloping trend going into 2025 and 2026. It's because capacity is being taken offline, but also Russia is just getting a 4-year low price for their export because Saudi Arabia wants to pump more. I don't know why. Saudi Arabia cuts December oil prices for Asia as OPEC Plus boosts output. So the pricing decision came shortly after OPEC and its allies on Sunday agreed to a modest oil output increase for December. So even though the price of oil is at a 4-year low, Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states basically are increasing production through December. They're then going to hold production levels through the first quarter of next year. This can't be making Russia happy. I don't know why. I'm not going to ask questions, but this is really bad for the Russians, as Saudi Arabia is stealing market share. They're trying to take as much from the Russians as possible right now, which is economically hurting the Russians even more. Then there's this. Gunvor cancels $22 billion Russian Lukoil deal after U.S. calls it Kremlin's puppet. Gunvor dropped its $22 billion bid for Lukoil's foreign assets after the U.S. Treasury called the Swiss trader a Kremlin puppet. This isn't Donald Trump. This is the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. I personally don't think Scott Bessent likes the Russians because Every time the Russians talk about him, they mention he's gay, and that's not acceptable for the Russians. So Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, does not like the Russians, but he still has to stay in line and do what Donald Trump wants. But he sent out this tweet. President Trump has been clear that the war must end immediately. As long as Putin continues the senseless killings, the Kremlin's puppet, Gunvor, will never get a license to operate and profit. Meaning that if Lukoil sells its foreign assets to Gunvor, this Swiss trader, they can just be sanctioned next. And it's the exact same position, and it would be worse for Gunvor. This is Gunvor responding. The Treasury Department statement about Gunvor is fundamentally misinformed and false. Gunvor is and has always been open and transparent about its ownership and business, and has for more than a decade actively distanced itself from Russia. Here's the key sentence. For more than a decade, actively distanced itself from Russia. They did this at Putin's directions. Putin has told his operatives working abroad, go ahead and distance yourself from Russia and me, but I still own you. I still control you. If you want to do the deep dive, the connections are there. Following the major WikiLeaks release in 2010, it was reported by the London Daily Telegraph that the wealth of the then Russian Prime Minister, Vladimir Putin, was linked to a secretive Swiss-based oil trading firm called Gunvor. Putin owns this company, just like he owns Lukoil, just like he owns every company. Yes, technically it's in somebody else's name, but that person can be murdered and disappeared and replaced by Putin at any moment. So everyone just does whatever Putin says. So I'm glad that this is getting blocked, and this is bad for Lukoil, because they were only granted a 1-month license to kind of sell their assets and resolve business. But they're not going to meet this deadline. They're not going to find buyers. Bulgaria prepares to nationalize Lukoil refinery as U.S. sanctions hit Russian oil. These countries are saying the operations of your refineries and plants are critical for our energy needs, and if you can't find an acceptable buyer for these assets, then we're going to nationalize them. That's what Bulgaria is saying, as well as Moldova. Lukoil must sell its assets in Moldova within no more than 2 weeks. This is when the license expires. Otherwise, Moldova is just going to seize their property, which isn't going to make the Russians very happy. Explosions rock Voronezh amid reported drone attack on Russian power plants. I don't support this. I don't think this should be done, but because the Russians every day are targeting Ukraine's thermal power plants and their energy infrastructure, Ukraine has to respond. So in our last video, we talked about Ukraine striking the Oriol power plant. They've also struck the thermal power plants in Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod, and now they're in the next oblast close to their border. This is Voronezh. Initially, there's just pictures and videos showing a fire in the distance, but then the next day we got this photograph, and that is a hole in the wall of their thermal power plant. I'm guessing it was struck by a Ukrainian drone or missile, and we'll see what it means. Russia's going to have a cold winter. Ukraine also struck a 110 kilovolt substation in Tagnarog. This is west of Rostov-on-Don. There are videos of it burning online, and Ukraine is just going after all of this energy infrastructure. Anywhere close to their border, they're going to continue knocking out the power until Russia agrees to a ceasefire or at least stops attacking Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Drones hit key Russian petrochemical plants in Bashkortostan. Ukraine has already struck this numerous times. This is a petrochemical plant that produces explosives for the Russian military. And I don't know how Ukraine did this, but they caused a pipeline to explode. This is the CCTV video, and you can see the pipeline. I don't know how deep it was, but it simultaneously explodes. I'm sure this is going to affect the plant operations. Ukraine destroys Russian air defense launcher. This is near Simferopol. This is the transport erector launcher for an S-400 system. And this is a very expensive, valuable system. Ukraine spotted it with a drone on the Crimean Peninsula, and they successfully took it out. Russian Ka-226 helicopter crashes in Dagestan, killing weapons plant employees. Ukraine had nothing to do with this. This is in Dagestan, I'm guessing on the Caspian. And I'll link the video down below, but this Russian pilot was flying a helicopter trying to do like an emergency landing, and you can see the tail section hit the ground, bent up, hit the propellers. The crew then tried to save the helicopter, and initially they landed in the water and they were fine. If the pilot had cut the engine, they all would have survived. But instead, he decided to take off and try and land somewhere else, but he lost his ability to maneuver, and eventually the helicopter does crash. Who was killed? And this was the chief engineer, chief helicopter construction instructor, and deputy director of the sanctioned Kyiv plants that makes avionics for the Russian military. And they're all dead now. EU bans Russians from multi-entry Schengen visas. Basically, when Russians apply for a visa to visit the EU, they can no longer get multiple entry visas. It's only single issue now. It feels like this could have been done years ago if we're trying to tighten visa restrictions, but better late than never. And this needs to happen. Maybe even a total ban with only exemptions being given for humanitarian reasons, but this is who the Russians are. This is what they're committed to doing. They're not going to stop until they're economically or politically defeated. Russia launches 9th attack on Ukrainian gas facilities since early October. Here is the map showing all of the drones and ballistic missiles and cruise missiles, primarily targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Ukraine has been holding them off for 2 months, but Russia got some successful hits last night. 3 thermal power plants down, 12-hour blackouts introduced in Ukraine as Russia executes their freeze-out terror campaign. Ukraine's state-owned energy company says all of its power plants are down after Russia's largest ever attack. Let me read this for you. Kyiv tonight, blackouts in most districts. The city is in darkness from the Russian strikes. Emergency and planned power outages have been introduced. Many shops, pharmacies, institutions work from generators and other alternative energy sources. Ukrainian energy professionals are repairing our infrastructure, often risking their lives because Russia keeps launching new attacks. Russia terrorizes millions of people. This is a genocide and a crime against humanity. Russia's crimes must be stopped and punished. This is Ukrainian journalist Maria Avdiva. I want to read what she's saying about the city of Kharkiv. Let me tell you what a day in Kharkiv looks like under Russian attack. After a series of explosions, the city went dark. No heating, no water, no power. People were told not to use elevators. There'd be no one to rescue those stuck inside. The metro stopped. Train schedules were disrupted. Outside, generators hum near shops and cafes. People stock up on water. No panic. Just calm. Practice motion. Kharkiv adjusting again. If this is what Russia has been trying to do to Ukraine for 4 years now, Ukraine has to respond. They have to do the exact same thing to the Russians until the Russians agree to a ceasefire or stop this war. In the meantime, Kyiv faces over 12 hours of emergency power cuts following one of the largest Russian attacks. I guess there's a government app and they let you know when the power will be on. This is, for example, Kyiv's schedule. There will be a scheduled power out between 9 a.m. and I guess this is 2:30 or 3:30. They then only have 3 hours of power during the daytime. It's then off until after 10:30 p.m. People just have to adjust. They have to get generators. They have to stock up, charge their electronics prior to 9 a.m. Ukraine has done this in previous winters, but it's getting harder. Russian attacks kill at least 11, injure 44 over the past day. We're all focused on the power being out, but Russia is still targeting and blowing up apartment buildings, killing people. This is an apartment building in Dnipro. It was deliberately targeted with a Russian Shahed. I can share some good news. From the rubble of the building, they pulled someone's pet dog. This dog managed to survive. In Ukraine, every life matters. There was also a cat that was pulled from the rubble of the building. I'm sure that cat is saying F the Russians. Seriously, bro. Russia is also just destroying every gas station in Ukraine. Because the Russians are so upset about their gas shortages and gas lines, they're just sending Shaheds to individually destroy every gas station in Ukraine. That's Russia's strategy to win. Russia targeted substations powering nuclear plants during large-scale overnight energy attack. This is just dangerous for the world. If there is a catastrophe at a Ukrainian nuclear power plant, the radiation will blow all over Europe. It'll blow over Belarus. It'll blow over Russia. But the Russians don't care. During today's attacks, Russia once again targeted substations that power 2 of Ukraine's nuclear power plants. These were not accidental, but well-planned strikes. Russia is deliberately endangering nuclear safety in Europe. We call for an urgent meeting of the IAEA Board of Governors to respond to these unacceptable risks. We also urge all states that value nuclear safety, particularly China and India, to demand Russia stop reckless attacks on nuclear energy that risk a catastrophic incident. There needs to be global pressure to force Moscow to stop its nuclear blackmail. Yeah, China and India don't care. They just don't care. But this is who the Russians are. They're pure evil. I'm going to play this clip, and then I'm going to read it, because everyone needs to know who the Russians really are.
Лишь бы была фантазия. Сделать можно вообще все, что угодно. Книжки минировали, и игрушки минировали. Раскидывали вот эти курилки электронные с ядом. Заминированные раскидывали.
This is a Russian sapper on a podcast bragging about where he would hide explosives to kill any Ukrainian. We planted explosives in books. We planted explosives in toys. This is a Russian soldier wearing his medals, bragging about putting explosive devices in children's toys to kill Ukrainian children. He probably doesn't have any trouble sleeping at night. I'm going to play this clip as well. This is insane, but this is a Russian combat sheep.
Бля, вот он вообще идти не хочет. Вот он уперся, блядь. Сейчас может освоиться, конечно, я хуй знаю. Давай, давай, иди. Тебя там ждут, нахуй, на элеваторе. Все. О, иди потихонечку. Давай, давай. Боевая единица. Давай, иди, там вкусно, нахуй. Там вкуснятина на элеваторе.
We've seen the Russians using donkeys, horses, and camels. What purpose does a sheep serve? Like, they're going to eat it, right? The only reason why you would bring a sheep to the front lines is to eat it, right? Let's cover the politics. It's stupid today. Trump cracks Western sanctions unity with Hungary exemption on Russian oil. So Donald Trump has been screaming for last year, the Europeans need to stop buying Russian oil to end this war. But because Viktor Orban is an autocrat who kisses Donald Trump's ass, Donald Trump is happy to make an exception for his good buddy, Viktor Orban. Art of the loophole, Trump gives pass to Orban's Russia reliance in major blow to sanctions strategy. This is the opinion of the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Estonia's parliament. By granting Hungary an exemption from sanctions, President Trump shows Russia that he is weak and yielding. Such an attitude only emboldens the aggressor and does nothing to create conditions for peace. Here's the good news about Donald Trump. He's failing. MAGA is failing. We had an election on Tuesday. Every single state, every single race that MAGA or Trump favored, they lost. They lost in California, they lost in Georgia, they lost in Virginia, they lost in New York. Trump endorsed Andrew Cuomo. They lost in New Jersey. So I do feel optimistic about American democracy because we are still at the moment having free and fair elections, and at the moment we still have free speech. MAGA is trying to eliminate all that. But Trump is becoming increasingly unpopular. All public opinion polling of him, it's high 30s, low 40s, and his disapproval rating is about to be over 50%. People were willing to give him a year, give him a shot. But mostly he's failing because of cost of living. The cost of food, the cost of energy, the cost of insurance, the cost of rent. It's just really unaffordable in the United States right now. And every policy that MAGA is implementing, like tariffs, just makes everything more expensive. This is what people are starting to realize. It doesn't really have to do anything with Ukraine, though Trump's not helping himself because support for Ukraine is a popular position here in the United States. Trump, every time he opens his mouth, just says stupid thing after stupid thing, and he is telegraphing, he is explaining to us why he's mad at the Russians. He said it again.
And, you know, look, that war should have been a one-week war. I don't know why it's taken. This is 4 years. Should have been 1 week. Should have been over with, but it would have never started. It should have never started. And
Trump just said it again. This war should have been only 1 week. Was Ukraine supposed to defeat Russia in a week? No. He's saying Russia was supposed to win this war in a week. This was supposed to be a 3-day special military operation, and Putin messed it up. So when Trump and MAGA came into office in January, their plan was to just abandon Ukraine and allow the Russians to win fast. Cut off USAID, cut off all supports, no direct military aid, stall 2 more weeks, 2 more weeks, 2 more weeks. Just give the Russians time to win the war, and then the war is over and we don't have to think or talk about it. That was MAGA's plan in January. And here we are almost a year later, and the Russians still haven't taken Pokrovsk. That is why Donald Trump is annoyed, that the Russian military is so incompetent. With all his delay tactics and stalling, they still can't even take Pokrovsk. Zelensky vows to block Russian oil to Hungary. Hungary's MOL says it can already go 80% non-Russian. Hungary gets its oil from Russia through a pipeline. This is the Druzhba pipeline. If you remember 2 months ago, Ukraine knocked the pipeline offline. The reason why was explained. The Russians were sending oil to refineries in Belarus, and then Belarus was sending back gasoline or whatever. So Ukraine, on Russian territory, knocked the pipeline offline. This made Slovakia and Hungary very upset, and I'm guessing they complained to Donald Trump. Maybe Trump then told Zelensky, stop attacking the pipeline. But Zelensky is saying, we can just shut down the pipeline on our territory at any moment. If things get worse, if Russia does not stop, we're just going to shut off the pipeline to Hungary and Slovakia. This should have been done years ago, but This makes these members very unhappy. I'm sure it'll make the Czechs unhappy now as well. Other political news: Lavrov out of favor with Putin. Reports force the Kremlin to comment. Putin reportedly has sidelined Lavrov after his failure to get another Trump summit in Budapest. I don't think Lavrov did anything wrong. Putin's the one not willing to negotiate, but it's Lavrov's job to sell the impossible position of Putin wanting his empire back. I don't have any sympathy for Lavrov. He's a terrible person. So I hope bad things happen to him, because I'm sure he knows a lot of secrets, and nobody really gets to peacefully retire in Russia. If you are in the family, if you know what I mean, you never really get to leave. But the Kremlin denies Lavrov fell out of favor with Putin after canceled Trump summit. There you go. You can't believe something's true until the Kremlin denies it. Lavrov will not be attending the G20 summit in South Africa, and he was absent from a key Security Council, so nobody has seen or heard from Lavrov in over a week. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. New Zealand's Kiwi Care delivers $60 million in humanitarian impact in Ukraine. Thank you so much to you fantastic Kiwis out there. Sweden has helped fund 400 drones for Ukraine's strike against Russian oil refineries. Thank you so much to you fantastic Swedes. Proud that it will save lives, French fishermen donate old nets to Ukraine to protect against drones. Thank you so much to you French fishermen. Okay, here is our channel fundraiser. We are officially on day 6 or day 7, and we are at $838,000 donated from 7,838 heroes. Thank you so much, everyone. This is incredible. The fact that this is our 6th campaign in which we will break $1 million. This is unheard of. This is shocking to people when I explain to them how impactful and powerful this YouTube community is. So rather than show you a unit video yesterday on the main channel, this is the accountability and final reports for our last fundraiser. This is the Save the Donkeys campaign. So I just want to play for you the first minutes of this video, and I'll link the entire thing down below.
Hi Jake, on behalf of my battalion I would like to thank you and your great community.
Pretty good editing, right? If you're out there and you're still on the fence and you can spare $5 or $10, we could probably finish this fundraiser by tomorrow. We need more small donors. I love you guys, so if you are on the fence and you can kick in 5 or 10, I greatly appreciate it. If you can't, no worries. Like, comment, share, subscribe, volunteer, write your representatives. There's lots you can be doing to support Ukraine other than donations. Final video I want to share is from Kate from Kyiv, and this is a video showing what Kharkiv's schools look like. Kyiv has had to build all of their schools underground because Russia keeps targeting and blowing them up. So this is 1,600 students that go to school in this facility. And because these facilities are limited, they have to have around-the-clock attendance. So I'm guessing there's some kids that go in the middle of the night for their shift at the school. And I just want to show you what it looks like. This is a children's school without natural light or windows.
Особливо доставляє те, що ото синя ніяк не називається.
Не сказал же. Так я вообще... Обычная школа.
Kids just want to be kids. We need this war to stop. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.